change. That's not what we're after. We really want someone to feel healthy in their body and be able to eat from balanced food groups, and eat socially. As that's such an important part of society and healthy being. So we want to pay attention to all of that.
Dr. Evelyn Attia directs the New York Presbyterian Center for Eating Disorders. She's also a clinical psychiatrist. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
WNYC is a media partner of the New York International Children's Film Festival, showcasing all new short and feature films and Q&As with visiting filmmakers for ages 3 and above. February 28th through March 16th. Learn more at nyicff.org.
Marketplace Morning Report is next, and later on Morning Edition, the United States drops decades-old alliances to stand on the side of Russia. The move has angered some lawmakers in both parties who say it's a betrayal of American values. But a former deputy national security advisor from the first Trump administration defends the change in tone.
We can't care more about European security than Europe does. I want to be a staunch partner to them, but the U.S. can't care more than they do.
More on that in about 15 minutes.
Why are consumers turning so sour on the economy?
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. The Name Your Price tool provides a range of coverage options. Progressive.com. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. First, the U.S. and Ukraine have agreed to a draft deal to give U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. The news agency Reuters cites 2 sources with knowledge of the matter. This was a key demand of the Trump administration, and Ukrainian officials may have believed the concession was necessary to maintain U.S. support in the war against Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine just about 3 years ago this week, yet President Trump said that Ukraine, quote, never should have started it. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more on the emerging minerals deal.
Yeah, the details of it are still fuzzy, David, but the broad outlines of this tentative deal apparently include a reserve fund paid for by proceeds from the mining of rare earth minerals in Ukraine, and the U.S. would have a joint ownership stake of some sort. President Trump had previously demanded $500 billion in mineral revenues from Ukraine as payback for past support, although the U.S. has not spent anywhere near that much in military aid for Ukraine. In any case, that's apparently not in the deal. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had been seeking security guarantees and ongoing military support. We don't know if that's included in this tentative deal either. What we do know is the 2 leaders are likely to meet soon for more talks. Trump said yesterday that Zelensky wants to come to the White House to sign this deal, maybe as soon as Friday, David.
Friday. All right. And how much of these valuable minerals is Ukraine thought to have?
Well, by its own accounting, Ukraine says it has about 21 so-called critical raw minerals, which are necessary for green energy development, electric vehicles, and battery power. Now, we're talking about minerals like lithium and graphite. It has about 3% of the world's lithium reserves. So Zelensky had floated the mineral reserves as an area of investment in the past, but he balked at the initial U.S. proposal and said generations of Ukrainians would be indebted to the U.S. Now there's a deal that could provide an economic stake for the U.S. and Ukraine's welfare, and that is apparently something Ukraine favors in the long run.
All right. Marketplace's Nova Safo, thank you. New surveys show a lot of people have gotten quite nervous about the economy. Yesterday, the business group The Conference Board reported the biggest monthly decline in consumer confidence since 2021. February was the 3rd straight month that confidence fell, about everything from future business conditions to income and jobs to family plans for spending. Now, separately, last week, the University of Michigan survey also reported a sharp decline in optimism of consumers, along with a sharp increase in inflation expectations. Here's Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman.
There have been signs of rising consumer agita for months, says Tuan Nguyen at consulting firm RSM. But the latest decline in sentiment?
It was quite a surprise. We did not anticipate it would be this significant.
And what's driving it?
Consumers are increasingly concerned about inflation. We are seeing the impact of higher food prices, particularly egg prices, rising gasoline costs, and talk around higher tariffs.
Mostly, threatened tariffs haven't happened yet. Still, says economist Elizabeth Renter at NerdWallet,
a big part of what's going on is uncertainty. It's in a lot of headlines right now. Economists are saying they're uncertain about things. We see it in the Fed meeting minutes.
Economist Robert Frick at Navy Federal Credit Union calls it
a sense of foreboding with tariffs and with layoffs.
Of federal workers, which the Trump administration has started to implement.
You could lose 10% of the federal workforce, 300,000 people. You could lose 500,000 federal contractors.
We don't know how all this tariff raising and job cutting is going to turn out, but the uncertainty's bumming consumers out, meaning they're likely to pull back their spending, right? Frick says probably not.
Consumer confidence and consumer sentiment have very little bearing on how people actually spend.
He says as long as consumers' incomes are going up and beating inflation, they're likely to keep spending. Meanwhile, fears of tariff-driven inflation might actually encourage more spending, says Elizabeth Renter.
If I had plans to purchase a vehicle in 2025, but I think vehicle prices are going to climb significantly over the next year, I might accelerate that, purchase it right now.
And Renter warns this accelerated spending to get a jump on tariffs could drive some consumers to take on more high-interest debt than they can afford. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
Checking the numbers where the stock market is in its own world here. Dow futures are up 0.3%. I see S&P futures up 0.5%. NASDAQ futures up 0.8% now. Bonds are steady this morning so far with the 10-year interest rate at 4.32%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by the Marketplace newsletter. No jargon, no hype, just smart takes on the economy. Marketplace.org/subscribe.
According to the president, the U.S. is launching a new green card for wealthy people who want to immigrate and become U.S. citizens. It's to be called a gold card. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has more.
President Trump unveiled the gold card idea while speaking to reporters in the Oval Office. He says the cards would give wealthy people the right to live and work in the U.S.
We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship.
Trump said the U.S. will start selling the cards in about 2 weeks. Asked if Russian oligarchs would be eligible for gold cards, Trump said possibly, adding he knows some Russian oligarchs that are, quote, very nice people. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was standing next to Trump. He said immigrants applying for the new gold cards would be vetted, and the card would replace the current EB-5 program for wealthy immigrant investors. It gives green cards to foreigners who invest a certain amount of money in a U.S. business. It's not clear, though, that Trump can just replace the EB-5 program with the gold card without congressional approval. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
And a satellite company owned by the unofficial czar of federal government cutting, Elon Musk, is on a possible fast track to take over a large federal contract to modernize America's air traffic communication system. The Associated Press is reporting equipment from Musk's Starlink has been installed in Federal Aviation Administration facilities as a prelude to a possible launch of a $2 billion contract that had been held by Verizon. The AP spoke to government employees, contractors, and people familiar with the matter. It's Marketplace Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.
WNYC